G'day, ladies and gentlemen. It's Jack and Brody, two of the physios up here at Be Mobile, and welcome to the Be Mobile Show.
We are experts in all things health and fitness for over 55s. We are physios, as Jack said, but our big passion is getting the over 55s community exercising so they are fit and strong and can do all the things they love to do in life.
100%, mate. And just as a reminder, we are, of course, sitting here on the northern beaches of Sydney in our exercise studio where we purely serve over 55s. We have the gym here, but we also are online all around the world. As I say every week, that is the beauty of the internet. We can reach people. And we have members all the way from Scotland to New Zealand to Hong Kong to Australia. It's great.
On that note, welcome to any and all members who are watching.
Yes.
We're happy to have you here. And if you're not a member but you're tuning in, welcome to you also. We're excited to have you. What we're going to do today is we run through a bit of an educational topic, a bit of discussion. Today we're talking about hip osteoarthritis. So if you're interested, you'll get a little snippet on that with some practical tips. Then we'll answer a few member questions and some of the live questions that if anyone wants to drop any in the comments, we'll do our best to get to a few, if not all of them.
Definitely. And obviously, shout out, tell us where you are hailing from. Give us a hello and we will say hello back. We'll try to make that as much as possible. Okay, well, listen, let's get straight into it. Now, the reason we're going to talk about hip osteoarthritis today, well, firstly, it's quite common, but we get a lot of questions about what exercises I should be doing if I have hip osteoarthritis. Can I prevent it? Do I need a hip replacement? All these types of questions. So we wanted to touch on it, but let's just discuss what hip osteoarthritis is.
Yes. Okay, it is a condition that affects the hip, as you might have guessed.
Nice.
Yeah, we're coming with the informational pearls right here. Typically, it causes pain, stiffness, and reduced range of motion of the affected hip joint. And typically, it can be diagnosed without any imaging or blood tests or anything. Often people will get an X-ray done at least, if not an MRI, but it doesn't actually need that to be diagnosed. We can make the diagnosis clinically based on those various symptoms and taking a thorough medical history.
Yeah, so it's kind of the signs and the symptoms which defines hip osteoarthritis as opposed to a specific definition. Now, one other thing I'd say, whole joint condition. So it doesn't just affect what people typically think of as just the cartilage, in the joint of the hip. And I've got a little image I'll chuck up here. So we've got lots of different structures in and around the hip. So we've obviously got the head of the femur, a big leg bone there, and that interacts with the acetabulum, which is the socket. And that can be deep socket for some people and shallow for some people, which means different things. We won't get into that too much. We have obviously the ligaments around that and the actual capsule which surrounds the joint as well. Isn't that right, Brady?
Yeah, that's right. So what you're looking at there is a right hip from the front. So if you're standing in front of someone looking down at their right hip and you had X-ray vision with some extra detail, that's what you would see. Now, as Jack said, it is just getting a little sound check here.
Sorry about that, folks. Did you say sounding warbled?
Jack is underwater. Okay. He does these shows underwater sometimes.
Let me make a slight adjustment.
Hopefully that's clearing up. I'm going to continue. So what people might think of hip osteoarthritis and other forms of osteoarthritis is that it's a wear and tear condition, that it involves wear and tear of the cartilage. But that's not actually the case. What it is as Jack said, a systemic, a whole body condition where the symptoms are particularly present in one area. In this case, obviously the hip. But it's more complex than just wear and tear. It's, as we say, systemic, and it involves this inflammatory process. So it really is mostly an inflammatory condition. And the inflammatory cells don't just affect the cartilage of the joint, Jack. They affect the bone as well, and the synovium, which is the joint capsule and the ligaments all around it. And it affects the muscles and tendons in that area. So it's not just wearing down of the cartilage. It's an inflammatory condition affecting the whole joint and influenced by the whole body health status.
Bemo, love it. You are the man with the answers. I will say that. Now, one thing people often go off is scans. That's how they were. When I was fixing my mic, you didn't touch on scans, did you?
I didn't mention scans yet.
Just briefly, scans. So typically and historically, you would go to a doctor. You would say, I have these symptoms. They would say, okay, let's send you for a scan. And they would kind of use the scan as the not the time the gold standard to diagnose hip osteoarthritis. So there is reduced space in the joint, which means the cartilage is thinning. therefore you have hip osteoarthritis. But
I mentioned that scans aren't needed to make that diagnosis.
There you
So, which is what you're about to get onto, which is why is that? Why isn't the scan needed then?
absolutely, because we have evidence, good evidence to show that you can have scans which show very limited cartilage left in the joint, but with no symptoms. And then people on the other hand with lots of cartilage and a seemingly healthy joint on scans, but with lots of cartilage. So they don't really match up very well, which is why we don't rely heavily on them. They can certainly aid in helping us diagnose things, but they're certainly not the kind of typical stat.
Yeah. And that's why we said it's a complex condition. It affects the whole joint and the surrounding structures. It's not just about how much or how little cartilage you have. It's about the symptoms you currently have. And that's what's most important.
Okay, now we've got a couple of comments here. It sounds like I'm talking underwater. I certainly would be able to talk underwater because I don't ever stop. And let me just... So maybe there's a bit of reverb in there, Alicia. How are we looking? Sorry about that, folks. Yeah, go for the dual channel, see what happens. Sorry about that, folks. We're just trying to brush up on our audio.
The technical difficulties, what can you do? We'll see if that's any better.
Yeah, just let us know in the comments if I sound less warbled. Now, I actually love warbling because I'm a big fan of magpies. I'm actually a twitcher.
Can you do a magpie call? Oh, that's pretty good, actually. That's better than I would have expected. Okay. He's the man with the bird.
How are we sounding, Alicia? Sounding a little bit warbled still?
I think we'll push on. Yeah.
Okay, we'll push on, folks, because that's what we're doing here at Be Mobile. Okay, let's talk about treatment. So we just talked about how it's diagnosed. It's a whole joint condition, inflammatory in nature. What treatments can we do? And we'll talk about what treatments are recommended, Brody, and then we can talk about potentially ones that are not recommended.
The best sources for information on this topic, at least for health professionals in Australia here, where we are, is the Royal Australian College of General Practitioners guideline for the management of knee and hip osteoarthritis. So this is a really thorough, evidence-based document to guide health professionals about how to treat hip and knee osteoarthritis, and they synthesize all the available research and make recommendations. So it's a pretty good place to get information, I would think.
And I can post that in the comments there, if anyone wants a link to that guide. It's in depth.
It's very detailed. It's just free to access, though, right?
Yep, absolutely free to access.
Let's talk about what treatments are recommended, Jack.
Yeah, great. So the guidelines have a strong recommendation based on the total amount of evidence that they've collated for education. So educating yourself more and more about hip osteoarthritis and what you can do about it. Now, this is what you are doing right now. So reading up about it, watching videos like this, other videos on YouTube, for example, that we might have. Secondly, they talk about weight loss. So if you do have excess weight, well, then losing some of that can have dramatic effect on pain levels and function when it comes to both knee and hip osteoarthritis.
That's particularly relevant if you are overweight, and a 5% reduction in body weight for someone who is overweight is enough to make a significant difference to their symptoms.
Right.
And for many people, that 5% is achievable.
100%.
Number 3, perhaps what I think, what we're going to strongly promote the most
massage.
No, Jack, it's not massage, actually. It is exercise. Yeah, so education, weight loss for those of whom it is relevant. Not everyone with osteoarthritis is overweight, of course, and so that's not relevant, but exercise.
Okay.
Exercise is really important. And we are, of course, going to answer which exercise should you be doing.
But not quite yet, because we're going to leave that. We're going to get a little more into what exercises you should be doing. Brady, other things that could potentially help in treatment that aren't technically active treatments.
Yes, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs can be helpful.
Ibuprofen.
Ibuprofen, your Voltarens, as it's an inflammatory condition, those can be helpful. Worth discussing with your GP or pharmacist to make sure they're not interacting with your other medications if relevant. What else have we got here, Joe?
We've got massage. So, massage in short-term bouts could be helpful for pain relief, but just remember, you're not doing anything to structurally change the joint. So we don't recommend using this as your first-line treatment. This is, if you have the spare money and you want to go spend it on massage because it makes you feel good, I have nothing against it whatsoever.
Yeah, but it's not structurally changing the condition, the pathophysiology. It's not making the joint stronger or able to tolerate movement better or anything like that. So it can be used as a pain relief tool, but it is just that for pain relief. It's not promoting recovery of this condition.
Brody, I'm going to do a little bit of tech work to try to sort out this sound. So if you want to go on by yourself and talk about what's not
I'm
recommended.
happy to. I can talk all day about this. How much time have you got, folks? In terms of what's not recommended, that's the thing to get onto next. We talk about those key 3 treatments: education, exercise, and weight loss. And now we're going to get into what is not recommended. So, therapeutic ultrasound. When you've gone to physios in the past, they may have put that ultrasound on you as a treatment. This is ultrasound for treatment. That is shown to be not helpful at all. Doesn't work, doesn't improve outcomes, not worth your time. Shockwave therapy. That's a newer technology. It's a similar thing. It's a treatment someone might apply to. Unsure about that, but at this stage, there's not strong evidence support to support it. So we're not going to recommend it at this stage. It isn't worth doing until we know that there's evidence backing it up. Next, footwear. There is extensive footwear, fancy footwear, very expensive footwear marketed for osteoarthritis of the knee or hip. And again, it has not been shown to be reliably effective. So it's not something that's worth spending your time and money on. Just wear shoes that you find comfortable.
Alrighty, I'm just going to do a quick, folks, I really apologize. This doesn't usually happen. I'm just going to do a quick sound check. Yep. I think we're getting some doubling up audio here, Alicia. So I'm just going to quit this and see if that changes it. So folks at home, I've created software which hopefully should fix it. Let's get a bit of feedback. We do apologize once again. We don't like that because this is a audio show.
Yeah, mostly. I mean, we do look great up here.
Yeah, and I can dance.
But people are not coming for the visuals as much as they are coming for the valuable.
Really not for me, Brody. I'll say that much.
Talking about treatments which are not recommended. So ultrasound as a treatment, not recommended. Shockwave, not recommended. Expensive fancy footwear for arthritis, not recommended. And lastly, supplements. So glucosamine, fish oil, turmeric. These are some of the common ones. None of them recommended. Not worth doing. Don't have evidence to support their effectiveness.
100%. Okay, let's get on to what exercise is best for hip OA. We'll start off, well, definitely the guidelines recommend land-based exercise. So exercise where you are putting your feet on the ground. So for example, strength training, walking, running, things like that, and even things like Tai Chi.
Cycling.
Yeah. However, water aerobics, aquarobics, swimming, things like that, it's not recommended for the treatment of hip OA. However, we're not saying it can't be effective in pain and even with the cardiovascular system.
Yeah. And the reason that is things like hydrotherapy or aqua aerobics place less load on the joints. You might think that's great, my hip hurts, I'm going to place less load on it. But what that doesn't do is then improve your tolerance or your ability to sort of take load on your hip. We live our lives on the land. So while it's all great, well and good to go in the water and take a bit of a load off the hip, that's actually not going to help how much your hip can tolerate normal daily stuff like walking around and going up and down stairs on land.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And like you can imagine, like it's kind of like when the astronauts go up into space and they have to readjust when they get back home and do land-based exercise so that their joints are able to take that load.
So if you like swimming, aquarobics, great exercise, nothing wrong with that. Don't stop it, but it's not the best exercise for hip osteoarthritis. The best is going to be land-based. So what we want to do is there's no special exercises. There's no best exercises for hip arthritis per se. We think they're going to fall the 2 main categories of your cardiorespiratory exercise. So that can be walking, bike riding, things like that, building up your cardiorespiratory fitness. Because as we said, it's not just about the joint cartilage, it's about the whole body and the health of the whole system.
That's right.
And then Jack, what about the strength training side of things?
The strength training side of things, we want to be loading our hips up in various ways that Brady talked about before. So things like squats, okay? So where we're squatting down and really loading up that hip. Deadlifts where we're bending over and picking things up from the ground, once again loading up that hip. Things like step-ups. People who have hip osteoarthritis will often complain about issues of getting upstairs and downstairs. So training that in a very specific, meaningful way during strength training sessions can then push over into your daily activities, and therefore they're going to be easier. So remember, the point of strength training, besides bone density, muscle strength, is to make your daily tasks easier. And I know to our members out there who say, yes, we've heard that about 50 million times. It's because it's true, and we want to keep reiterating it because it's one of the reasons you're doing what you do.
Yeah, so if your hip hurts going up and down 20 stairs, the best way to fix that is to build up your ability to do stairs.
In a tolerable way.
Yeah, so you might do 5, rest for a minute, do 5, rest for a minute, do 5. Do that 2 or 3 times a week. start to increase the number of steps you do each time, and that's how you build up that capacity. You're not going to get at things by avoiding them, and that is a fact you can take to all aspects of your life.
Yeah. Now, this is not a shameless plug for our online program by any means, but enrolling in a structured exercise program is going to be one of the best things to do, because you might say, well, I'm just going to start out doing a couple of squats here and there, but you're not likely to stay accountable to those exercises. So joining a local gym, local exercise class, something like
exercising with some friends, whatever it is, finding ways to help keep you accountable. For most people, most humans on average, it is hard to keep up with an exercise routine. So you want to put everything in and doing that, having that community or that group or those people you do it with, or signing up to something, this helps with accountability. It doesn't guarantee success, but it will help.
Definitely. Excellent. Well, I think that's kind of all we want to say about hippo. Although, just one last thing, Brody, and Alicia, I'll just get you to check how our voice is sounding a bit better. Okay. Okay. I'm going to change the mics. It's all good. Brody, if you don't mind talking about hip replacements and your thoughts on when you should get a hip replacement. Let me try to fix this audio.
Yeah. Hip replacements. When should you do it? You should not do it because you've had a scan that says you need it done. Because as we said, the scans don't correlate that well. It should be a symptomatic decision, and it should be something you should only consider once you've really given a good go to all the other possible options. So that means you've addressed the weight loss if you are overweight, and you've engaged in regular resistance exercise for, I would say, at least 6 months, maybe more, because only then you see if that sort of cumulative effect of all that exercise is reducing your symptoms and improving your quality of life enough. If you get to that point and you are still not able to function normally in daily life, if it's really affecting basic everyday things, if it's affecting your job or your relationships or your social life because you can't do the things you want to do, that's when it may be worth considering a hip replacement. But the key thing there is it should not be based just off of what the scan says. It should be based on your symptoms and your quality of life. The hip replacement surgery in general has a pretty good success rate, a pretty good satisfaction rate, where most people with significant osteoarthritis will feel a lot of improvement and improve quality of life and things after the recovery period. So it's something to consider as sort of a last resort or a down the track thing. It should never be something you do if you just have mild pain or you've had a scan that shows you have osteoarthritis. Taking a pause to try and fix this mic situation.
Alrighty, folks. Let's see if that is working now. Alicia, do you want to do a quick check? We've got the old mics on.
I'm trying different mics to see if that helps at all. There's a quick tech substitute there.
Okay, let's get a quick check. Folks, really apologise. I know this is frustrating. It is equally frustrating for us because we want you to have a good experience on the show. This is unfortunately the first time we've ever sounded like we are underwater. So I'm just going to jump in here, Alicia, and see what we can do. Sounds great now. Okay. So sorry, folks. It looks like
Well, I've got good news.
The old mics are actually the better ones because I don't know, they're just a bit hardier, aren't they?
Sometimes the older technology. I've got good news, folks, and that's if you have hip osteoarthritis or you want to learn more about it, you couldn't hear us due to our technical difficulties. Boy, have I got something in the works for you, because Jack, in just a couple of weeks, we're releasing a video on our YouTube channel all about hip osteoarthritis.
Yeah,
it's going to be all this information and actually a lot more
in depth.
And I assure you, because it's not a live video, the sound quality will be impeccable. So if you have osteoarthritis, if you want to learn more, it's a good time to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're not already, or if you're one of our members. I'm sure you already know this, but that video will be coming up soon. So there you go. You can get all your hip osteoarthritis information there.
100%. So yeah, we appreciate you sticking around. That means a lot to us. And I'll just say hello to a couple of people.
Yeah,
hello, Annette, Catherine, Val, Bronwyn, Norma, Val again, Sarah, Brenda, Val again, Lynn. Awesome to see you on, guys. Really appreciate it. Someone named Live Life to the Fullest. That's awesome. That's a brilliant name. Lilia, Maureen, guys, thanks so much for coming in. I will see if there are any questions.
Yeah. If you have any questions about hip osteoarthritis that we didn't cover, we can get to those. Otherwise, we've got about 3 member questions that have come into us that we're going to get to. And then, any other ones in the comments there that we can address?
Yeah, well, this is interesting. We've got a nice comment here from Val, who's one of our long-term members. I know Val had a lot of issues with her knees early on, but she says squats to me are amazing. My hips feel great after them. I do them every day, no matter what. Love it. There's a good example of exercise being really beneficial, or specifically squats and strength training being beneficial for Val.
And a key thing with exercise is just because it doesn't feel great now, it doesn't mean it won't or it won't improve. Like if you have hip osteoarthritis and you don't do much exercise at all, and someone says do some squats and they hurt, that doesn't mean they're not going to be helpful and beneficial in the long run. It's about finding that starting point where you can tolerate them, persisting sometimes with a little bit of pain and discomfort, and building up and understanding that journey is going to get you to a point where for most people it significantly improves. And you'd be surprised how much difference you squat, how much more you can hold when you squat after a few weeks of building that up.
Yeah. And sometimes you do have to go through hard times to get better. That's certainly the truth. So, but good things usually take time. So stay persistent is what we're trying to say. Now, Brody, let's get on to some members. Hey, some questions. We've got a couple from our members and one from the public as well. So if you have any other questions, as Brody said, chuck them in the comments. We will try to get to them if you are commenting live. And if not, we can always try to answer them in next week's show as well. Just as a little disclaimer, have you given a disclaimer while I was?
No, I haven't.
As a disclaimer, obviously this is general advice in nature. We're not giving specific advice to you because we haven't assessed you, but we think general advice can be really helpful for some people.
Certainly can be, but as always, check with a local health professional, physio or GP or whoever else may be. Don't take this as your physio consult.
Okay, let's get into this. So first question comes from Shirley, who's a member of ours. So it was a great question, very relevant for a lot of our population. I recently returned from a hiking holiday in the Lakes District in the UK, had no real problems with the hiking, but on the last day, after about an hour, my knees were screaming with the never-ending downhill. However, the next day and several subsequent days, my left knee had become swollen. Not really painful unless on a downhill motion. Kneeling at present is uncomfortable and painful. I'm still doing the workouts as well as my usual twice daily hour-long walks, but can the physios recommend some suitable exercises to keep my knees functioning so I can continue to do what I love? And she goes on to add that she was diagnosed with osteoarthritis and she doesn't want to have new knees, even though she's been told she might have to have new knee replacements. But let's stick with the main question there of, do we recommend exercise to keep the knee functioning?
Yeah, we can definitely answer that. Osteoarthritis, as we said for the hip, same for the knees, an inflammatory condition. If you load it quite acutely, more than it's used to, a great increase in activity, like a never-ending downhill, that can provoke some inflammatory reaction leading to extra pain, stiffness, swelling, etc. So we'd call that sort of acute episode of inflammatory response related to the arthritis is probably what's going on.
Yeah, so there's just a big peak of volume. How much load you're putting on that?
Going downhill endlessly.
A lot more.
Quite a lot of strain and load on the knee. Not that strain and load is always a bad thing, but it's often a very good thing. But in this case, it was perhaps a little bit too much. What can you do in the immediate term is allow a bit of time to rest, recover, and let it settle down. That doesn't mean stopping all activity. Definitely keeping up some activity.
And Shirley said she's still doing the workouts and a twice hour.
So great. So you're able. So the symptoms are within a range where you can keep up a lot of your normal physical activity, which is great. It will just settle down again. It might take a few weeks, sometimes a little longer to settle down. That's when the potentially the NSAIDs or steroidal anti-inflammatories like ibuprofen or Voltaren could be helpful. If you're okay to take those, check with your doctor. But let's get on to the crux of the question about what exercises can Shirley do in the long run.
So Shirley, if you are doing our workouts, which you are, our member workouts, you're getting all the exercises you need. So things like squats, obviously working the quads, in fact, all the muscles around your legs, including your torso, deadlifts, calf raises, step-ups, all these types of things that you're doing in your workouts are great. What I would suggest when it comes to managing the load of your walking, that's probably one of the most important things for people who do a lot of cardio exercise like walking, running, hiking. So just be mindful of doing sudden increases in your overall load for that week, like happened the other day. But then again, if you're kind of going away for a weekend doing a lot of hiking, sometimes it's hard to avoid.
It was a hiking holiday. You knew your knees were gonna have that, and it sounds like they made it most of the way through pretty well. So that's a big positive. It was just that last day that was a bit too much. But no special exercise. Exercise for knee, OA, and hip OA research quite a bit. There's lots of different stuff that helps. Anything joint and moving, like all those examples Jack gave, help. There was one oh, this one best exercise is the best you can do. It's the only exercise you need. No, that's not true.
Yeah.
Just using it in lots of different ways. So all the stuff you're doing is already the right stuff. There's nothing.
Yeah, and by the way, you are doing the best stuff you can to try to avoid future knee replacement. I mean,
Being active.
okay. Keep hiking.
Keep
Second
hiking.
question here from Lorna Brady. Do you want to read that one out?
Lorna was diagnosed with diabetes this year. She said she began doing cardio exercise 30 minutes daily. Awesome. However, worsening knee pain from arthritis led to physio diagnosing Baker's cyst. My GP recommended avoiding exercises that worsen the pain, like hill walking, and suggested some isometric straight leg raises and quad strengthening, despite the latter causing some discomfort. After watching your video on osteoarthritis, I recall the significant impact on my own mobility and pain reduction. However, I'm concerned about worsening my marginally improved Baker's cyst. General recommendation. So,
do you want to just explain what a Baker's cyst is?
Baker's cyst is basically a little pouch of swelling that can appear on the knee joint capsule. There's a sort of maybe like a little weakening in the wall, and sometimes some extra swelling kind of balloons out a little bit and leads to some swelling behind the knee. A common side effect of osteoarthritis can lead to some pain and discomfort.
100%. Okay, so let's get on to the main crux of the question. Trying to avoid... Oh, sorry.
The GP recommended some exercises, so isometric straight leg raises. So just tensing the quad muscle and lifting up to work the quad muscle. That's fine, but that's a pretty, just a low-level starting exercise. We want you to get on to more advanced stuff pretty quickly, stuff like the knee, just like we talked about in the previous question from Shirley.
Yeah, and so I would give a general blanket rule here and say whatever is going to be tolerable for you, and so tolerable for your knee, which is you, is going to be the best kind of rule to follow. So, for example, if you can do squats, fine. Don't stop squats. You might have some pain in the meantime because you've got swelling and you've got a heightened sensation around your knee. Doing things like lunges, step up, calf raises, like we've talked about before, glute bridges, all the exercises that you're going to be doing in the program anyway, Lorna, we would recommend doing them. The other thing is, in terms of quad strengthening, things like straight leg raises are probably not going to be enough load to strengthen your because it's a very light exercise. That would be maybe if you just have a knee replacement, you're looking for a really easy exercise.
Like I said, it's sort of at the starting level. Not much more than that. There's no sort of this exercise you definitely should do or shouldn't do. Even for someone with, a Baker's cyst, it's going to be different. It's going to vary person to person. So as Jack said, doing what you can tolerate for now, avoiding things if they're really intolerable. just try to build up gradually.
Brody, what about, she said, I'm concerned about worsening my marginally improved Baker's cyst.
Yeah, we can't guarantee what will or won't provoke it. You might try some squats and they feel okay, and the next day it's really swollen again and you've provoked it. Again, it'd be great to have an answer for that, but we can't. It does just take a bit of trial and error and just kind of see what you can tolerate. But you should do as much strengthening and loading of the knee as you can tolerate over the days, and hopefully try and keep increasing that.
And just knowing that if you are tolerating it, don't worry about making it worse because it is just a bit of swelling. We know it can be frustrating, but you're doing the right stuff. Okay. Question here from Janet. She said, I'm starting a week hike of the Southwest.
10-week hike.
Oh my God, sorry. A 10-week hike. That is a slight difference. 70 days, my lord, of the Southwest Coast Path in England at the beginning of June. It's just over 1,000 kilometers. My God. More if I get lost too often. But I want to avoid most of the shin splints, which happened when I walked the Camino Trail, which is kind of all around Europe, really. It will be a lot of up and down and often over rough ground. Any tips? Just pray and hope. No, seriously, that is an amazing thing you were doing, Janet. Firstly, to be able to walk 1,000 Ks or to attempt that even, I think that is inspirational. I've never walked 1,000 kilometers.
So why would you get shin? What are shin splints and why would you get them? It's sort of a general term given to pain around the shins. Often people get from loading acutely. It's fairly common in runners and hikers and that sort of thing. The exact reason it's happening and cause isn't fully understood. It's to do with the muscles pulling on the shin bone, maybe some inflammatory response there, some overload, some sensitivity. It's all a little bit complicated. What we know is, again, like we talked about with the knee swelling earlier, a sudden peak or increase in physical activity is what's likely to provoke.
Great.
Of course, you are doing that coming up. So there is just some risk of that. In terms of what what you can do, we can't guarantee. But in big picture view, the best thing you could be doing is, of course, regular hiking and also gradually building up to that point. So if you know you've got to do 100 kilometers a week, in the weeks leading up to that, gradually increasing the volume, 50 Ks a week, 60 Ks a week, 70 Ks, and building up to that level is a great idea. And also generally in life, bigger picture question, doing strength training and plenty of hiking and things as well is going to be helpful. As to what you can do now, a couple of weeks out, as Jack said, pray is maybe your best option. But seriously, you should be doing some hiking now. And if you're not, you've got at least a couple of weeks in the tank to sort of to build up to. Yeah.
I'm just calculating the daily average. So it's about a 14 kilometer daily average of walking. So that is a lot over, obviously, 70 days. So
hopefully, Janet, you are doing some hiking. Assuming you're attempting 1,000 K hike, you're probably well prepared, and you probably understand that you should be building up your volumes in it. But yeah, if anyone else who's wondering, who had a similar question, or maybe has a big physical event planned in the future, that's the idea. You should be doing strength training and conditioning now, and you should be ramping up and building up towards that event in the weeks out.
Yeah. Also, intra-hike, so within the hike, when you start, I mean, if it's already planned hiking, you know exactly where you're starting and finishing each day. Maybe you can't change that. If it's one of these hikes where you're like, well, I'm just going to see how we go. I'm going to go a little bit more this day than that day. I would try to start by just, testing yourself out, see how you go with 15 kilometers on the first day, handling that really well, do it for 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
Cool. One day you do a really big 30 kilometer day, maybe pull it back the next day to give yourself a bit of recovery. Because 10 weeks, it's like it's a 1 hour, 8 week program.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay.
That's awesome though, Janet.
Good luck.
Fingers crossed. I'll cross fingers and toes for you that you don't get shin splints.
Yeah. Okay, let's have a look at some of the comments here. Well, this is nice. E. Davidson says, thought you guys were going to start blowing bubbles for a while then. That is very true.
Technology, hey? When you've got 7 different things all integrating together to put a show on, and it's just 2 blokes up here having a chat.
Yeah. This is what happens when physios do the tech work. Yeah. How many physios does it take to put on a live show? Bobby says hello.
I'll pat us on the back. We're usually pretty good.
Actually.
Yeah.
Hello
this is
from
your first show. Expect better from us.
Wet Innisfail in the tropics, Bobby says. So maybe Bobby's chucked a bit of the water down here. That's why we sound like we're underwater. Denise says, just discovered you in the past few days, been so inspired and given some hope. I was diagnosed in 2008 with osteoarthritis in both knees and spine. Yeah, Denise, as we said,
welcome. Welcome to the community.
Yeah, and there's a lot of hope when it comes to osteoarthritis. You can do or not. You can probably see some of the comments from the members there saying how they've improved. And we've got a video that just came out last week, I believe, on the osteoarthritis on our YouTube channel, so check that out. Okay. That's about it.
Lovely.
Okay.
Sorry about the sound, folks. It will be better next time.
Yeah. Maybe we've got to go back to the old tech.
Yeah. Hopefully you learned something. Anyway, despite the sounds. And as we said, there's a very detailed, thoroughly researched and written hip osteoarthritis video coming out on our YouTube in a couple of weeks. So you want all this information in a nice digestible way, that will be there for you.
Okay. Well, that's it from us. We'll see you next Wednesday at 4 p.m. on our YouTube channel and our Facebook page. Thank you for coming, whether you were all of our members and 8-week Fitness Strongers. We'll see you next week.